Question, how long can you buy the dip for? Like if you started buying the dip 8 months ago and it's still dipping, like, there's got to be a different term for that. Well, gas prices are climbing, distracting everyone. Cryptos and stocks are kind of falling apart. So will the markets keep crashing? How does this all end? To answer that, we need to go back to the start of the issue, the pandemic. Just place yourself back in time, 2020. It just started. 2020. Sounds nice. It has kind of a ring to it. Maybe this will be the Roaring 20s 2.0. And things are generally fine for a while. You hear on the news about some new virus, but you're like, that'll never be over here. That's just the news trying to scare us. Ebola, that came and went, no big deal. But all of a sudden, a switch flips. And everyone is staying home for 2 weeks. A temporary lockdown to try and get the virus out of here. 2 weeks of relaxation, I'll take it. Tiger King just came out. I have something to do. And then 2 weeks turns into a month, and you realize Netflix has like 6 good shows. So you make sure to have as many screens as possible in front of you at all times. Laptop screen for Zoom calls and Slack. TV screen on for background noise. Phone screen in hand. Maximum stimulation, just the way nature intended it. But even that gets kind of boring. And that's when you hear about stimulus checks. $1,200 check? Yeah, sure, I'll take it. That's something to look forward to at least. Apparently the market's been crashing ever since COVID hit, and the US government is trying to keep the country afloat. That's weird. You think the line at the store has never been longer, but I guess people are out of work. The government finally figures out how to get you your check, but you have no idea what you're going to do with the money. Friends on Facebook, they're buying even more screens to look at. Your sister put down a payment on a brand new car, a Lexus, pretty nice, but you're bored. A buddy in your group chat keeps mentioning Tesla and Bitcoin. You have some time, so you decide to look into it. What if your $1,200 turned into 10 grand? That'd be pretty sick. So you punch Bitcoin into Google. You read a couple of CNBC articles, you get it, but not really. It's digital money, but there's only so much of it, and the price can go up. It's kind of weird, but kind of cool. Tesla also seems cool. That Elon guy, he talks like his brain is faster than his mouth, so he must be some kind of genius, plus it's good for the environment, right? So you split your money into a few exciting stocks and cryptos. Ethereum? Yeah, sure. That guy also talks like his brain is too fast for his mouth. So you sit back and dream that the market will take your $1,200 and just launch it to the absolute moon. And guess what? It does. 3 months into the pandemic, you're looking at returns that beat even the best hedge fund managers. You and your boy in the group chat are laughing about your gains. You try to talk faster than your mouth can keep up with, but that has the opposite effect of Elon and Vitalik. Either way, you're hooked on this whole investing thing. Your YouTube feed went from this to this. You're officially a retail investor. You hate hedgies, business, markets, supply, demand. No problem. Meanwhile, the small business landscape is falling apart. Your dad's tile business has had the slowest quarter in a decade. Service is terrible literally everywhere. Purchasing supplies and parts is like some kind of weird scavenger hunt. The world feels pretty bad, but the markets are still doing great, and people are still hot on Instagram, so things must be okay. I'll just stick to the markets, you think to yourself while researching how to take a margin loan out on Robinhood. Hold up, important announcement, it's finally here. After 6 months of work, I'm excited to announce Finova. Frankly, our group has outgrown Patreon. We needed a platform to host all of our membership content in one easy-to-use place, and we did it. This includes trade signals, lessons from our 6 coaches, and posts from yours truly. And to kick this off, all new and existing users who move to the platform are eligible for our $10,000 giveaway. For real, $1,000 to 10 different people. More information will be in the description below. I can't even tell you how stoked I am for this. Back to the video. Everyone you know has now gotten into investing, and you hear even more stimmy checks are coming. You know that if you can get some dollars into crypto and Tesla before that, you'll make a fat return. And guess what? You do. Big business is booming. The government is printing more money than it ever has, and they actually say, this is totally fine. We have much more control over inflation than we did in the 70s. You see these levers? These are the economy, and we know how this all works now. So you're sitting there, at your computer, and you pretend like you're the guy from Limitless, picturing the cause and effect of the 3rd round of stimulus checks. And you're like, okay, everyone who gets their check is either going to spend it or invest it. People who invest it will help out stocks and crypto right away. People who spend it will most likely spend it at big businesses, and then eventually they'll help out stocks and maybe crypto later on. Plus, the Federal Reserve made interest rates go to essentially 0. So this way, big businesses can spend and make the economy good again. Your conclusion? Investment go up. And they do. Time passes, and you've just had some small ups and downs. But after a year of pandemic, you are still sitting on massive gains. The S&P 500, Tesla, Bitcoin, you have diamond hands. I mean, it's basically impossible to lose money in investing. How doesn't everyone do this? Why would you ever sell? Meanwhile, all of your friends are looking for jobs, but somehow there's also a job shortage, and just about every local restaurant has closed for good. You just picked up a fourth screen, another laptop that you have dedicated for price charts because you are not going to miss the next GameStop short squeeze. Oh, and like inflation is getting weird. It's creeping up higher and higher. And that guy on C-SPAN just keeps reminding you that it's transitory. And you're like, right, transitory. Makes total sense. And then the impossible happens. Bitcoin collapses in May 2021. You're like, that can happen? Your crypto account drops by 50% over the course of 3 months. This is bad. What's going on? So you start digging into real research. You learn what a supply chain is. Basically, all the steps that a product needs to go through in order to land in your shopping cart. And it turns out that raw materials, like the stuff that you dig out of or grow out of the ground, is now in low supply. There's not enough people to actually dig it out or drive it to a factory. And factories are having to shut down entire production lines. Food manufacturers are having to limit staff to try and prevent COVID outbreaks. Cars aren't even being made because every car has like 100 microchips in it, and we need raw materials and factories for that to happen. This is the first big uh-oh. Like, if we can't get stuff out of the ground, then we can't make other stuff. And does that even matter if we can't get someone to drive the stuff somewhere to get the stuff refined? And does that even matter if we can't get the stuff to make the microchips that go back in the trucks to haul the stuff to refine and make the other stuff? Like, how do you fix a wheel while it is rolling off a cliff? You're terrified. So you do what any rational investor would do. You buy the dip. And within 2 months, you feel like a genius. I mean, stocks are pretty flat, but the crypto market is already higher than ever, and you totally forgot about that whole supply chain nonsense. You start looking into why your stocks aren't going to the moon anymore. You find out what a P to E ratio is. The easiest way to think of it is the number of years it takes to pay off an investment with profits. So a P to E of 10 means 10 years to pay off the investment with profits. Turns out the current P to E is like 25 for the whole market, where the long-term average is 15. So that must just mean that, stocks will sit there for a while until profits catch up. No biggie, right? What about inflation? It was just sitting around 5% for a while, but now it jumped up to more than 6%, and they still say that this is transitory. At least you know that whole supply chain issue. If that gets better, prices will go down. But what about the trillions of dollars pumped into the economy? I mean, I'm not an economist, but I know having 4 times more dollars floating around isn't going to make dollars worth more. There's really only one direction that value can go. So you ponder that for a while, and you do what any rational investor would do. You buy more. For the next couple of months, things are kind of boring. Not much action up or down. You don't care enough to dig further into the research. You've turned off your 4 screens to go try the outside. Your YouTube homepage reverts back from this to this. All seems pretty good in the world, like it might be getting better. It's still a little shaky, but like the pandemic kind of seems over, kind of not. You're still one of the most successful investors of all time if you annualize your 1.5 years of returns. A few months go past, and this is when things start getting weird, because basically nothing is fixed. You haven't heard the word transitory in months. You can literally feel the inflation anytime you shop. And you heard interest rates might go up sometime in the future, meaning money for businesses would get more expensive. And worst off, your investments are starting to slip downwards a bit. Not a lot, but like enough to be noticeable. So you sit there and you think about this, before of course buying the dip. And within a month, that proves to be maybe not your best idea. Within 2 months, that definitely wasn't your best idea. You're just gonna keep your money for now in the markets, but you're not gonna add anything until stuff starts turning green again, because it always turns green eventually, right? That's when Putin's like, surprise bid, war. And the market freaks out and sells off, and you realize there's even more to this, because Russia has oil, and the world needs oil. There's like this delicate balance that the world has. Supply chains are still bad, so not only do we not have the parts to dig, transport, refine, or build the stuff we need, we also have to pay more for fuel even if we try. That's like trying to sprint with a 5'7" Russian strapped to your back. Meanwhile, inflation is breaking 40-year records month after month, and it turns out the real definition of transitory is not good. Nothing is working. The whole market has slid. At this point, maybe you're like the 5th or 6th most successful investor of all time, just ahead of Bill Wang. Companies you know and love begin to slide, and so does Netflix. And that's when a fateful day comes. The C-SPAN guy, Jerome Powell, you finally decided to learn his name after 2 years, tells the world interest rates are going up. Stocks sell off. Crypto sells off. Luna has a catastrophic $40 billion crash. Walmart tanks. Target tanks. What the hell is happening? Your portfolio was higher a year and a half ago. All of this for nothing? When will this end? And that brings us to today, where nothing is certain. But what we do know is supply chains have not fixed themselves, and people have less cash to spend, which means businesses not only have higher expenses, but also lower sales. Not to mention the cost to borrow is now higher. So high growth companies need to reevaluate their plans completely. How does this end? Most likely with some more pain. The Federal Reserve has realized that the experiment that they're running didn't go exactly according to plan, and changes are needed. Those changes will cause pain, at least in the short run. The issue is we don't know how dramatic that pain will be. It's a matter of the emotional reaction at this point. I personally believe that it will last until we have a very large player collapse due to too much debt. That would create some panic right away, but end up acting as a relief valve for the economy. Like, that bad thing happened, we can all take a deep breath, and we can just relax a little bit. But in the meantime, I'm keeping a long-term focus and looking for value deals in the market, knowing full well that prices might drop further before they recover, because that's just how things go. I hope that was helpful. That was a fun one. I would like to thank you so much for watching. I'm Max Maher, and I hope you have a profitable day.